Well, hi again, everyone. It's good to be back with you. Good to be back with Tracy, and good to be talking about how we relate to God in our lives. And we've talked about how we relate to Jesus as believers and how we relate to Him as those who love Him. And today we're going to talk about how we relate to God in the way that we honor Him, as people who honor God. Now, honor is a big thing in the golf world because the traditions of the game and the history of the game is quite long, like other sports. But
Right.
golfers sometimes pride themselves on respecting the game and honoring the game, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, honor and integrity are huge because, I mean, when you talk about the rules of the game,
Sure.
whether it's order of play to respecting your playing partners or to you broke a rule, it's the player's responsibility to call that breach on themselves.
Right, it is. And
Yeah.
we've seen some difficulty in that regard in the last several months and controversy
Right.
and things like that. And it reminds us all, wait a minute, do I need to respect the game? Do I need to pay attention to how I play the game? Which is hard because very few people actually play the game at a competitive level where they're required
Right.
to follow all the rules to the T.
Yeah, and when I go play social golf, I don't follow all the rules to the T.
But you still respect the game in certain
do.
ways. What are those ways?
I think honoring the pace of play. In a lot of our groups we play ready golf, but then there's, if somebody makes a birdie, there's always something inside of me that's like, it's your tee box.
That's right.
Take the tee box.
Yeah, so that's a form of respect.
Yeah, and I think also there's been a loss of honoring the greats of the past.
Okay.
Especially on the LPGA tour, the women who established the tour, made women's golf more noticeable. Younger players today really don't know who those players are.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's true, again, across a lot of sports. You have a few players who are really into the history of the game, but many of them don't pay attention to what came before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when we talk about honoring God, we're maybe talking about a little bit different thing, except that God has always been there. The history is all His.
Right.
And that's one way that we can remember, wait a minute, I'm just little me. And, God obviously cares for me and lifts me up, but I'm still just little me. And God has been here on and on.
Right.
So that requires a level of honor. And when you think of, I'm going to honor God, what do you think of?
I think of remembrance, reading back into the old part of the story and seeing where God showed up and how He showed up. And then even remembering in my own life, even before I really believed in Him, there are places where if I look back, I'm like, wow, God was there and I didn't know it.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, absolutely that would happen. And the Psalms, in Psalm 50, we read about honoring God with our sacrifice. And then it says that God will take those who are basically righteous before Him and lift them up. So to honor God is both something we do kind of in our religious acts, our prayers, our worship, our words, but it's also something that we do in our daily life as we obey Him and live out our faith, isn't it?
Yeah. Not easy, right?
Not easy.
But I think for me, when I fail or I feel like I've missed the mark, to know that it's Jesus that makes me righteous.
Right.
I can't do it on my own. I need Jesus, and I think by honoring God, by putting that reality that Jesus is the only way we can really be righteous.
Yeah.
And then through that, the sacrifices or the obedience comes more naturally.
Right. And I think it's an important check for us to know when we've dishonored God. That is to not just say, oh, I blew it. But boy, this is something God really wanted of me. And I don't like the expression, I let Him down. But He's the King of the universe.
Yeah.
And when I, as one of His subjects in that kingdom, do something that is not at all respectful toward Him, does not lift Him up, that should concern me.
Yeah. And then are we willing to follow those convictions or those, for me, it could be feeling of guilt or maybe even shame where it pushes me back towards maybe have to apologize to somebody or maybe it's just getting right with God, just by having a conversation with Him.
I'm gonna take us a little further than we've been going, but when you said that about apologizing, I thought, even in our apologies, we could say, I know I hurt you, and I know I dishonored the God I want to represent, and put that into our apologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be meaningful for sure. Yeah. Well, it's been good to be with you, of course, as always it is, and we'll see you in a week.